Good morning again, and welcome to today's webinar, Sensor Intelligence on Mobile Platforms Helps Bring Safety and Transparency to the Supply Chain. My name is Lisa Shaw, and I'll be your moderator. I work on the marketing team at SICK, and I'm excited to be hosting today's session. I'm also excited to introduce today's speakers, Tad Galloway and Aaron Schulke. Tad is an account executive for transport logistics at SICK and has extensive experience with AGV and mobile safety laser scanner applications. Aaron is a product applications engineer for industrial safety products, which covers SICK's complete safety product portfolio. In this webinar, our experts will explore the latest technologies for safely navigating AGVs and other mobile platforms through the retail fulfillment environment. See why sensors are such a key component for helping improve load handling, safety, navigation, and collision avoidance for safer and more efficient mobile platforms. Before we get started, I want to share that a recording of this webinar will be emailed to you following today's presentation. Also, feel free to ask questions anytime throughout today's session by typing your questions into the Q&A section on the right-hand side of your screen. Lastly, I want to mention that we will have some polling questions throughout today's session, which you'll also be able to answer on the right-hand side of your screen in your control panel. Now I want to introduce and welcome our presenters. Tad and Aaron, please take it away.
Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate the time today. Welcome, everybody. My name is Tad Galloway, and I, as Lisa said, am work in the Southeast for SICK, for the Transport Logistics Group. Want to go over a quick agenda of what our plan is to go over today. And again, feel free to ask questions through the chat function. Just a background and a history of AGVs. Some of you may be very, very familiar with it, in fact, more familiar than me or Aaron, but then there may also be some who are just getting into AGVs and mobile robots and things like that, and we wanted to discuss what they are and where they came from. Then we'll go through some focused technologies of why these type of sensors that SICK provides are part of the AGV and mobile robot platforms. We'll go through a virtual demo. One of the things that we didn't get to do when COVID happened and we were not able to attend MODEX was to show off some technology that we have that is actually a live demo as part of having sensors live and connecting to a computer, and you can sort of see a visualization. Well, we can do the visualization piece simply over the web. Then we'll get into some sort of other considerations, some new products, some exciting things that SICK has come out with recently. And then we'll have some time for sort of a recap and a questions and answer section. So feel free to, like I said, send your questions to Lisa. So let's jump right in. A very brief history of supply chain and AGVs, and I won't go through each one of these individually, but rather just sort of show you sort of where we've come from. If you go all the way back to the early 60s, the concept of automated guided vehicles had started then with simple things that made sure that AGVs didn't run over people by having tactile metal frames on the front of pallet jacks, automated pallet jacks and things like that. And those went into real bumpers that could stop the vehicle all the way up until the early 90s when SICK invented the safety laser scanner, the PLS, if any of you all are familiar. SICK invented that industry, or invented that product for this industry, almost 30 years ago now, and it has just grown since then, obviously, with more and more automation happening. So we've gone all the way up to be able to do speed control, and now, as you'll see later, into outdoor safety. You guys have heard the mobile platform moniker, and I just wanted to speak briefly to what a mobile platform is. AGV is the sort of accepted term that we have heard for years and years, automated guided vehicle. But more and more people around the world are using different technology, or excuse me, different terminology to talk about this technology. We can be talking about AGVs, which is automatic guided vehicles, AGCs, which are carts, MR, which is mobile robots, and all the way up to service robots and cobots. SICK lumps that all into one term that we consider mobile platforms, because many or even most of the applications that one does, the other one has some way of doing it, and so SICK is called that mobile platforms. Why? Why do we need AGVs or mobile robots or mobile platforms? Well, as we all know, going back 6 months, unemployment, especially in the U.S., was as low as it's ever been. It's hard to get people, so we need to do what we can to have the easy jobs done by robots or mobile platforms. Well, now we're facing a little bit of different thing with coronavirus and the fact that now unemployment has actually gone up, but the reason for that is that people can't work, can't be in close proximity to each other. And because of that, AGVs or mobile platforms do the jobs that would normally have people doing, and we can have less people in factories. So technology is enabling vastly more functionality, from everything from simple tasks all the way to much more complex lights out factories, and outdoor. Just a quick slide on what we're talking about and what type of industries this affects. E-commerce is a big one. We all know the Amazons, the Walmarts, the Targets, that they're doing more and more e-commerce. Well, with more and more e-commerce, you need more and more automation. Flexible production, the automobile makers and factories need to be able to move on the fly and change. And then we've all heard of Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 is something that SICK takes pretty seriously, even going to our tagline, which is sensor intelligence. That's not something that's just a catchy tagline. We actually mean it. It's something that we specifically strive to be able to do with Industry 4.0. Again, how the history and then into the future of what's happening in automation. Traditionally, on the left-hand side, we're talking about one person picks one thing and that's how they get their good. Then we get into more of the e-commerce stuff with manual picking and then goods to person, where somebody's picking it and bringing it to you. Well, going into the future, and the future is now, more and more picking is done by robots, then loaded onto trucks by robots, and then the trucks, which eventually will probably be automated as well, are taking them somewhere, and then Amazon and FedEx and these are already talking about drones delivering them to your house. Well, then that gets into more and more outdoor relevant stuff, and that's one thing that has never been really a capability of anybody in the industry is outdoor relevant safety. Some of the different things, applications that we're talking about, safety, like we said, for people so that they don't run over or hit people, collision avoidance, load handling, navigation, and so on. So I've mentioned a couple of times outdoor safety. We've got a polling question for you. And as Lisa said, you can answer sort of on the right-hand side. But how important is outdoor safety in your mobile platform strategy? What is interesting to you about outdoor safety? Give us a low to high, 1 to 5. All right, I'll move on and please answer that question. We'll go on. We'll go through all of these different things, but I mentioned all the different functionality, and we'll talk a little bit about this in our demo that Aaron and I will go through. But all of these are things that we can talk to SICK products and sensors in the mobile platforms applications. So why? Again, we've talked a little bit about benefits. We want to reduce that labor count, whether it's because we don't have the labor force available for one reason or another, like I said, whether it's low unemployment or coronavirus or whatever the next thing is, less damage to product. You can work in a lights out factory. You can, people get tired. Robots don't. Reduced cost. That's always something that every manufacturer, every retailer wants to be able to have. And increased efficiency. So here's just some of the technologies, talking to those applications that we were showing on the screen a few minutes ago. And we can go through all of them, but one of the things that I want to do is focus on the ones in blue and red here. Those are the ones that we're going to talk about specifically on today's call. We can talk about others, but safety laser scanners, time-of-flight vision, safety encoders, which is sort of a new thing, modular safety controllers, which is a big thing, and then we'll get into some of the localization stuff. So let's take a look at our demo, and for that, I'm going to actually pass it to my counterpart, Aaron, who's going to talk us through the safety portion of our online demo here. Aaron, you want to take it away?
Yes, sir. Thanks, Ted. So as you guys hopefully can see now on our screen, we are sharing our demo that allows us to kind of visualize some of the different products that are possible within a safety system of a mobile platform. What we're going to kind of focus on here, because the products can potentially be purchased or used or tested individually for these different applications, but you gain a lot of power when you start combining these products and creating a larger safety system versus just using, say, the individual. Again, there's certain situations where product on its own is going to be fitting for the application, and there'll be other situations where combining these provide you a lot more benefit and allow your system to operate more smoothly and more efficiently. So to kind of get more into the safety system aspect of that, we want to focus on a product that we use called FlexiSoft. And this essentially is a safety controller that has the ability to take sensor inputs and then do some programming with it to get some sort of logic. So those inputs from the sensors will go through some function blocks and produce some sort of output. Most likely those outputs are going to be, on a really basic sense, stopping your vehicle, maybe slowing it down or sending a signal to slow it down. But ultimately, the safety of the FlexiSoft is kind of the central nervous system when we talk in terms of this safety system. That being said, again, we handle all of our signals at this location, and we allow the system from the safety perspective to determine what to do all at one point. So we don't have to have multiple products that are all kind of doing their own thing and then try and figure out how all that fits together. FlexiSoft makes that very easy to kind of bring these all together. So that's kind of the point of FlexiSoft. Now, I mentioned that we can take different and various signals from the AGV or the AGC into the different modules on this particular controller. Some of those signals might be really simple, like an e-stop, where it's basically pressed or not pressed. And as you see kind of that get pressed and not pressed, you can kind of see the yellow firing there up on the demo that kind of represents that feeding into the FlexiSoft system. That information is now at FlexiSoft and we can use it. We can also use really simple sensors like an inductive proximity sensor, maybe looking for a position in past that has been for like a steer shaft. As you turn left or turn right, you get a metal flag that ultimately will determine what direction we're turning. And again, you can see that changing as that input is fed into the system. Now, what we typically see on these types of applications from a standpoint of protection is a safety laser scanner. And when we're talking about safety laser scanners, we're talking about a product that is using 2D LiDAR, and we're looking out into space. Now, we have the ability to configure what that space is, and we have the ability to kind of segment it up into different zones, and we call those protective fields or warning fields. And in the demo, you can see those denoted by the red, the orange, and the yellow fields kind of on the horizontal there. Now, with the laser scanner, something nice about our products is that we use a protocol called FE Pro, which allows us to communicate all the information housed in our laser scanner directly back to that controller we were just talking about, and vice versa. So now, a little bit more than just, say, a discrete high or low signal, we're now sending packets of information back and forth so we can get a lot of information between the two devices using very simple cabling. Types of information that you might see passing from a laser scanner back into FlexiSoft would be bits representing those protective fields or warning fields. Or maybe your laser scanner is getting dirty and it needs to be cleaned. We can send out bits back to the system to then use those, whether it's for diagnostic or for the actual safety function. And so that's kind of the laser scanner and its purpose on the vehicle, but also how it ties back into that central nervous system. Now, for the laser scanners and for your applications, it may be necessary to change what the laser scanner is looking at based on the process the vehicle is currently going through. It may be that the vehicle goes slow in some instances and goes fast in others. It may be necessary for the the vehicle to turn left or to turn right. And as you do those things, it's going to be necessary for your laser scanner to efficiently adjust to those new scenarios. And we can do that by taking encoder signals, again, back into our FlexiSoft. We have a module called the MOC, which can handle these encoder signals and look at these signals in terms of velocity or position. And when we're talking about velocity, again, we're really talking about how fast is the vehicle moving. As the vehicle moves faster, the fields get larger to look out further. So we can accommodate a longer stopping or braking that might be necessary on that particular vehicle. When we're talking about position, we're talking about steering. So if you have a steer shaft that we can put an encoder onto and then feed back into the FlexiSoft, again, as you turn that steer shaft, that information can be translated to the FlexiSoft and then in turn sent to the laser scanner and change the fields in which we monitor. Again, this makes it really easy to pass this information back and forth through the FlexiSoft and allow these various products that are kind of monitoring different things all work together to achieve the same goal of protecting your vehicle as it is in travel. So if we want to change then the view that we're looking at and start to look at something else you can get from the laser scanners, this is kind of a look at localization or measurement data. And so on this view, in the lower left corner, you can kind of see what the laser scanner is actually seeing. And so from the laser scanner's perspective, we are being, we have access to the 2D LiDAR point cloud as the vehicle is in travel. That information could then be fed back into a navigation system. SICK also provides solutions to actually do localization as well. And so if you need to know where in space or within a map you are located, we can provide that information. So again, you can feed that into your path planning of a vehicle. Now, from the laser scanner standpoint, this makes it really nice because it's kind of a two-in-one product. You get the safety aspect of the device that we were just looking at, and you get the measurement data at the same time. As you can see, there are some other products that can provide this localization. This is one solution that we offer from a 2D LiDAR standpoint, but there are obviously other ways that we can do that as well. And so to kind of dive into some of the other features we can offer, I'll let Tad take it away.
Thanks, Aaron. I appreciate it. And one clarification that Aaron talked about that maybe took me a while to sort of get my head around is that SICK does localization and mapping. What we don't do is the actual path planning, and he mentioned that, but that's a key differentiator that some people may not pick up on. We don't want to step on our OEM's toes, people that make the AGVs that work with us. That's what they're good at. They make the vehicles, they do the path planning, that kind of thing. We do have the localization and mapping, as you can see down here in the bottom left-hand corner, with some of our different products, not only hardware but software products. And as Aaron said, we can use the safety scanners, which are the yellow ones, to take in the information. We can also use, up here in the top left-hand corner, you can see the nav products. The nav products work, and that's what's on the top of the vehicle. I don't know if you guys can see my cursor, but up here in the middle top of the vehicle, what that's doing is doing triangulation based on looking at different parts of your layout. You can do it with or without reflectors so that you can do triangulation, but all of that is feeding data back into our localization software to where the OEM or whoever's making the vehicle can do path planning. The other thing that we really wanted to point out here was our 3D vision, or what we call our Visionary T product. And that product is actually true 3D vision to where it's sending out LED points of light, and we're able to look not just in a single plane like we would with some of our laser scanners, but now we can actually send out many points of light and see a 3D rendering of something that's in the way. One of the ways that we use to show that is when an obstacle is activated, you will see that over here on the right-hand side, in this particular case, we call it an overhung load. It could be a crane hook. It could be suspended forks from a fork truck or another AGV or something like that that wouldn't necessarily get picked up by the safety scanners on the floor, because usually those are meant for picking up ankle level issues. So we'll move on to the next view, and again, if you've got questions, feel free to text them in the chat box, and we can talk about those later. But moving on, we mentioned several other different applications and several other different sensors that we can talk about, and we can do multiple different applications with different sensors. So, for instance, the top two here talk about the height of the forks. So we can do that with the typical way it's done is with a wire draw encoder. So as we go up, and you'll see in these demos that the thing will be highlighted that we're talking about. So here in the middle of the screen, you can see the wire draw encoder as I move it up and down. But also, we can do the same application with a laser and be able to tell the fork height. Going down for load positioning on seeing how close the load is onto our forks with ultrasonics. We can also do load detection with photoelectric sensors in the tips. And then inclination is becoming more and more interesting to different OEMs and different customers. Linear encoders can do that where they're positioned inside the hydraulic cylinders or even outside. We've got several customers who are using them for not doing it inside the cylinder at all. But we also have inclination sensors that are 6 degrees of freedom with our TMM products. And then the other thing that SICK does a lot of in different applications, not only AGV, but also in warehousing and in retail and courier and airports and things like that are both barcode and RFID for detecting the goods that they pick up. So if you notice, we've got different IDs for different pallet loads, different goods. We do the same thing with a barcode reader. So just different applications that SICK can solve on your mobile platforms. And again, if you've got questions, we're happy to answer them at the end. So let's switch back over and talk about some new products that we don't have on here. So what are some other considerations that we'd like to talk about? Well, 3 new products, and I say new, some of them have been out for a little while. At least 2 of the products on here have been out for about a year and a half now. But we've got our outdoor scanner, which again, SICK is the only outdoor safety rated scanner on the market. We've got our NanoScan, and I'm going to let Aaron talk to both of these 2 because they are safety rated products. The NanoScan is actually the smallest safety scanner on the market. And then we've got our TDC, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But Aaron, you want to talk a little bit about the outdoor scan?
You bet. So from the outdoor scan standpoint, actually going to be very similar to the laser scanner that we were looking at in the demo. In the demo, that was our microscan safety laser scanner, which is really intended for the indoor space. With the outdoor scan, the key difference between this product and the microscan is that certification for outdoor safety use. And so this is in accordance with an ISO standard 13849 and an IEC standard 62998. And again, this allows us to use the scanner in both the indoor and the outdoor space as it's been tested and approved for that. How we achieve that, there's a couple of things going on. Ultimately, it comes down to our scan technology. We have introduced in the microscan something new called Safe HDDM. And this is ultimately a SICK terminology, but it stands for high precision measurement. And it ultimately is going to allow us to get a very reliable data point when we're scanning the environment. And since we have a reliable data point, we can then run it through some various algorithms that are specific for the outdoor space to allow us to operate better in rain, snow, or fog conditions. And so that really allows us to bring this product to the outdoor space, which would then allow us to tackle challenges or applications where maybe you have a mobile platform that needs to transfer loads from one building to another. Maybe it's only outdoors for a short period of time, but in that time, we can assure that the product will work as expected. And this ultimately opens the door to new types of applications and new solutions that not only we can help support, but obviously our OEM partners and end users can help support as well. And then let's look at the next new product, which will be the NanoScan. And this is a product that has only recently hit the market within the last month or so. And again, a lot of similarities to that microscan product we were looking at earlier in the demo. But essentially, we took that product, which is a little bit larger, and we kind of smushed it down into a nice, compact, form-fitting housing. Same technology, which provides very precise measurement. Again, that measurement data is available, but because its size, we're now able to, again, tackle new challenges, smaller applications, tighter fitting mounting locations where maybe products previously just couldn't fit or really accommodate. We can obviously mount this very close to the floor, which will allow you to, in the picture shown here, potentially shoot under pallets and see underneath pallets, which again opens the door to new solutions for solving problems that have kind of been out there for some time. In addition, this is a really powerful device. Even though it's small, we have a lot of functions built into this device to allow you to do those changing of fields like we looked at earlier in the demo, to change on the fly based on various signals from your system, whether that be from the device, the sensors directly, or using our FlexiSoft to kind of create that system approach. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, and one thing that Aaron mentioned earlier was our localization, and all of these sensors that we've talked about, the microscan, the outdoor scan, the nano scan, as well as some of our non-safety rated scanner, LiDAR scanners, can all be brought into our localization software, our localization package, to where you can do that, or you can just use the measurement data directly off of the scanners and don't have to use our localization. If you're an OEM that wants to do that stuff themselves, we have that capability to where you have access to that Ethernet connectivity, to that data. So, the third sort of new product that we're interested in showing today is what we call our TDC, our Telematic Data Collector. The TDC is pretty interesting in the fact that we've talked about Industry 4.0 and connectivity and transparency, and all of that feeds back into the TDC. The TDC is pretty interesting because of the fact that you can do all those things, as well as asset tracking and being able to get data from your sensors back to some central repository for either your AGV or your warehouse in general. We're seeing more and more people using the TDC on things like fleets, trucks, and things like that, to where they can track their assets, because as we go forward, more data, big data is better for tracking for general purposes in industry. So I guess another polling question here that again you'll see on the right-hand side: is asset tracking and localization part of your mobile platform strategy? Are you doing that? Is that something that you want to do? Give us your feedback on that. We're always interested in seeing if we're going down the right path and seeing how we can put our technology with your plans. So I'll give a minute, a few seconds for you looking at that. So just sort of a follow-up or a summary page here of the different types of things that SICK can do. On the left-hand side, we've got 4 or 5 different bullet points there, but environmental perception, safety and collision avoidance, we've shown that with Aaron and the yellow and orange products that we do. Load handling and auto identification, barcode, RFID, all of those different things. And then localization navigation. And then on the right-hand side, you can see where they all sort of fit, or all the different sensors that we have in our portfolio. And this does not, looks like we had a pretty good interest in asset tracking. About 60%, 61% of people said asset tracking and localization are important. So, but if you go down through this is not nearly all the sensors that SICK provides, but it's a good snapshot of the different things that we can use on mobile platforms. So now we'll open it up to some questions, and feel free to hit us with what you have. Both Aaron and I are here to be able to answer questions, both on strategy and on products. So let us have it. Lisa, have any other questions come in?
We do have one question that came in, and this is from Gilbert, and he asks, what is the timeline on the outdoor scan with ProLift Safe?
The timeline on outdoor scan, and I missed the last part there.
Oh, with I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Profi Safe, P-R-O-F-I Safe?
Yeah, this is Aaron, and I can handle that question. So from our standpoint, there is the intent to have an outdoor scan with Profi Safe at some point. Right now, I'm unaware of that being on a roadmap. Doesn't mean it's not being talked about with our German colleagues. However, I just don't have that information to provide here today. If that's something that you have more interest in, though, if you want to maybe follow up with us, or we can follow up with you, at that point we can kind of maybe explore kind of what's needed and get you some more information than what I actually have here on the line today.
Yeah, we can definitely follow up. Thanks for that question, Gilbert. The roadmap is something that sometimes we publish and sometimes we don't. So that's something that we can definitely follow up with you, either have Aaron or I follow up, or your local sales person can follow up with you. Lisa will take that information down and we'll get you an answer on it.
Great. That is the only question I see so far. So if Tad and Aaron, if you have anything else to add while we wait for a few more people to ask some questions.
Sure. Yeah. I don't want to talk just to talk, but feel free to ask us questions. I will say that SICK is constantly innovating. One of the things that I've been with SICK for about 9.5 years now, and it's always amazing to me with as large a company as we are that we put so much, around 10% every year of our total sales volume goes back into, or euros, goes back into R&D. And that's a high percentage of that is put into mobile platforms just because of what we do. Other industries as well, but something that has always amazed me and been proud of saying is the fact that we put a lot of R&D back into our products.
Great. Well, Tad, you must have explained everything really well because we haven't gotten any more Q&A questions. So feel free to wrap it up.
Sounds good. Well, we really appreciate everybody's time. If you do have further questions, feel free to reach out to either me or Aaron. Again, I tend to cover transport logistics in the Southeast, but I have a full team that I'm a part of, that we have members throughout the United States and even throughout the world. Aaron, again, can answer a lot of the specific application questions from a safety standpoint. Here's our contact information. Feel free to reach out to us. And if there's no other questions, we can wrap it up.
Tad and Aaron, and we hope to see our listeners again soon. Please visit SICK.com to stay in the know on our upcoming webinars. Thanks and have a great day.
Thank you.